So this this lad called Daniel got arrested by the police to do with Just Stop Oil actions, and apparently he was at his parents' house in London. I don't think he lives there, but they searched his house and found some pills, and they thought he was going to commit suicide or something with them, or reckoned that he could do, or something like that. Anyway, right? So after they'd arrested him and processed him, they were saying that they were going to section him under the Mental Health Act, and they got this nurse to evaluate him and so forth. I can remember when I was in hospital, I got tested for they give me like a blood test, and they found that I was going diabetic. That was before I reversed it myself. That's how I found out about it, and I got taken up to the hospital, but it got me out of the cell, but it did end up taking a lot longer. Not that I could have been arrested anyway. It was legal to arrest me anyway, just for putting up signs and notices which are political. And I still knew quite a bit of law then, but I'll know a lot more about the law now. In this act, I'm just searching through this act. Actually, that section, what they used, the first paragraph out of it needs to be applicable, or the rest of it can't be applicable. And I still think that political rights apply. I haven't found anything that actually says in exact wording for political right, like they do in the Extradition Act, like what Julian Assange was supposed to be extradited through. It says that extradition is completely and totally barred. You can't be extradited. That means you can't be put through extradited proceedings if the views and opinions in the matter are of a political nature, right? So that proves that when you actually are dealing with a political subject or matter, that there's not any legal powers of the English courts to even take you overseas or abroad. And in Assange's, it was a political case. There was multiple petitions and protests about it. That completely bars the proceedings to be extradited because it's of a political nature. So that means identifying the political nature is important, which is an overriding objective. Now, it's quite a long act, this, right? And there's 17 instances of the word right in this. I've checked for the word political. This act doesn't contain the word political in it, but it's got the word right in it 17 times. Now, let me read what it says. This is just in a random example, but it's important. It says, help in obtaining information about and understanding any rights which may, also it may not, may be exercised under this act or in relation to him. So these words here, it says under this act, right? Now, every single act doesn't necessarily have a political right or the wording to exercise a political right or recognise one under the act, right? Under the act. Some do, like the Town and Country Planning Act. The Town and Country Planning Act 2007 has recognition of a political right under the act, right? Which is Class F. And Class E. Class E is any political materials in connection with a referendum or election. And Class F, it doesn't actually say political in Class F. It just says that you can use any enactment or right. Apply any enactment or right. So that means you can apply the 1688 Bill of Rights. And that Class F pretty much removes liability from the majority, the most of the Act itself. But that's just an example. Even in the Criminal Damage Act, under that act, it says that it shall not be misconstrued as a defence against a charge under the act if the defendant is exercising a right, privilege, or interest, right? Well, what privileges or rights are there? Well, parliamentary privilege, petitions are covered by parliamentary privilege. It says in Erskine May, And a right is the 1688 Bill of Rights right to petition. So you can apply that act, among others, if that's the one that you're using or claiming, under the act, right? Sometimes an act, like some of the old highways acts, road traffic acts, had special reasons not to convict or special reasons not to prosecute, right? They've still got it for the traffic light offence, so there might be a special reason. Well, what special reason might there be? Well, any special reason, so you've got to have one, come up with one. Well, if you're using a political right that says you can't be prosecuted, that would be quite a special reason, right? They've even got it under that act, right? Now, the wording of this is so important, right? A right exercised under this act. Now, when you're bringing a criminal, when the police are approaching any criminal charge or any criminal matter under any act, the Criminal Procedure Rules, Part 1, 2, in D and HIV, require, as these are overriding objectives, right? They're overriding. And they don't have to be under a particular act. They don't have to be under any act, because when you bring a criminal procedure, a criminal prosecution, or every criminal prosecution and every criminal action has to use the Criminal Procedure Rules as well as the act, what the crime's in. You can't bring a criminal prosecution with only what rights are applying to. Oh, look, European Commission of Human Rights and the European Court of Human Rights. But we don't even need European rights because this is in England. So this act, this Mental Health Act, right? In criminal law, you can't bring a prosecution or charge a person on one act alone that the crime's in. It's impossible. You can't bring a prosecution with the act that the offence is in alone. It has to be brought through the courts, the Magistrates Court Act, and the Criminal Procedure Rules, and the act that the offence is in, right? And in the Criminal Procedure Rules, you've got overriding objectives. So they're in the Criminal Procedure Rules. They're under that act. They're under the Criminal Procedure Rules Act, and they're overriding objectives, which means that they're not under, they don't have to be under any individual act alone, independent act, because whichever act you're bringing a charge through, you're always also using the Criminal Procedure Rules, which is an overriding objective. An overriding. So it's not under any other act. It's actually overriding, because the Criminal Procedure Rules actually override any offence that is brought through it. And you might think, well, those overriding objectives are under the Criminal Procedure Rule Act, recognising the rights of the individual. Now, the thing is, the police might try and say, well, this particular act doesn't have any under it. Well, that's because if you're doing a political engagement, political action in connection with Parliament, The Thomas Erskine May book clearly states that petitions to Parliament and remonstrations fall under parliamentary privileges for certain. So you are exercising a right and privilege on the nature of what you're doing. So that actually is to be recognised and applied. It always applies. Always. And actually, where's this section? Is it section 42? I actually think that the police messing around with people, firstly, if you got arrested illegally in the first place, right, by the police, which is what I did when under that act, I can exercise a political right, and I have got consent to put signs and notices and also investigate them if they've stolen them as well. It's going to affect your mental health if a force that you're paying for out of your taxpayers' money, funded authorities that we're paying their wages for, fail to recognise your rights at the first instance when you're, for example, using signs or notices or something like that, and they're in complete ignorance or denial of fact, truth and law. That is evidence that the police have got mental health problems. They're going on pure will and not logic, like a bull in a china shop. They're actually acting on pure willpower, logic, or lack of knowledge of the law. If it's lack of knowledge of the law, then they're not educated enough. But I actually believe that they do know the law and people's rights, and I believe that they're psychopathic or psychotic. After you've been put through treatments by the police, when you're actually, it's illegal for them to do something to you. The police are the ones who have got psychological problems. And this is very real and true. Even judges, some of the justices, my justice said that I was delusional in my hearing where I put the right across. And he said that he said that Parliament privileges don't even exist for MPs, that there is no such a thing. Yeah, it's in a book that is used by Parliament, that they feature on their website. He's the one who's delusional. We've got a serious problem here. And even Chris Packham now, he's just made a video to say that, these court case shambles. These persons, these judicial people are either they don't have the capacity, or they're acting politically, and they're abusing proceedings because they think that maybe it's their own way of protesting. But I don't think using judicial proceedings as a form of protesting is wrong. That's not protesting to Parliament. No judge or police officer or Crown prosecutor is bringing a case to Parliament or addressing it to Parliament or asking for an action from Parliament by abusing judicial proceedings in a courtroom, which is not Parliament, for sure. Now, if they claim that they're, if it's a political action, they're not even claiming it's a political action. If they say, I know what the law is and I'm disregarding it, or I'm refusing to comply with it as a protest, then they're exercising and claiming rights. Or if they're advertising the fact, but they're not. I don't think that it is a protest. I think that it's an abuse of process and perverting the course of justice. Says here under 136, removal, etc., of mentally disordered persons without a warrant. I think you've got to prove that they're mentally disordered. But what the police can't arrest you, then take you into the cells for another offence, and then use a doctor that they've got working for them to try and claim that you've got a mental disorder. I think that you need to be. I don't think a GP can say that you've got a mental disorder alone. I think they've got to get some kind of other evidence or something like that, you know. Without a warrant. This is what the law says anyway. This is for the whole act, like the whole removal or detention or sectioning of people. First, they've got to comply with this clause here, right? Don't know what that just one. If a person appears to a constable to be suffering from mental disorder and to be in immediate and it's got to be both. So it can't just be. So it can't just be that it can't just be that they're appearing to suffer from a mental disorder. It has to be and as well, and also to be in immediate need of care or control. Well, what care would they need to be in? Or control? Well, that means basically if they've got their arms flailing around, or, you know, if they're in a seizure or something like that, or whatever, in immediate need of care or control, the constable may, if he thinks it necessary to do so in the interests of that person or for the protection of other persons. So it's all to do with if a person appears to a constable to be suffering from mental disorder and to be in immediate need of care or control, unless, how would they be suffering from a mental disorder? How would it appear? Well, it can only appear through actions or words. It can only appear through things they're doing physically or things that they're saying. Now, this is the thing. When any words, letters, signs, anything they write, or any actions or movements are for the purpose of a political opinion or matter, then the constable does not have the right. He does not have the right. He doesn't have the right to put them under control because it's not under his jurisdiction. And this is the thing with like Monster Raving Loony Party. I wanted to use this example. The Monster Raving Loony Party is a political party. And it has policies which other people might think were insane or even mentally disordered. For example, they want to legalise unicorns, right? Or other things that actually aren't possible or might be regarded as insane. I think they had a meeting recently in Northallerton after one of their election things, and they were singing loony songs or behaving loony when they were leaving a pub, right? And apparently there was some police there laughing at them or whatever. So the Monster Raving Loony Party is an example of political opinion and political action, even where you can't be charged for a mental disorder, even if it appears that they're mentally disordered, because it's in political opinion in nature. So the manifesto, all of the current manifesto and the past manifestos for the Monster Raving Loony Party are an example of where persons might be acting like they're suffering from mental disorders, because that's the point in the party. It's for lunatics, but they cannot be arrested because it's in their political opinion. This is exemplified in the Extradition Act. In the Extradition Act, Section 41 of the Extradition Act, an extradition is barred, actually barred in law, if it is based on someone's political opinions. Political opinions. The question begs what the police were doing there in the first place, although they're reckoning that, you know, they got possession of some pills, but, you know, could have been using those pills, you know, for a political action, you know. And they're not. The thing is, all of the words and speech and actions really are under a political. I severely don't think that this person was suffering some kind of seizure or something like that. That's for sure. I think, you know, if a person is engaged in a political action, right, and they did have a seizure, if the seizure is completely separate from the political action, fair enough. Like, you know, if they had an epileptic fit. But at the end of the day, I don't think this person was. They seem to be walking around and talking all right. I mean, how did they get in the police car? If they're having a seizure or a fit, how did they manage to get in the police car? How did they manage to get to the police station? How did they manage? I don't think a police station is a place of safety. I think a police station is a place what could aggravate or even initiate mental disorder, particularly if someone's been ignoring your political rights from the start. Someone's been ignoring your political opinion from the start. So that Extradition Act is a good example. Why have they not got the wording in this act? Why don't they have the wording in this mental health act for it? Well, they do have. They use the words "any rights under the act," but you've got rights which are overriding the act. And the thing is, if you were having this is how I see it now. If you are having something like an epileptic fit or something like that, or an actual illness, then the thing is, you're probably not going to claim a political right over that. You know, if you do need medical assistance or whatever, then, you know, you're going to claim that. But the thing is, all of these people are claiming political rights and actions. And the thing is, I don't think that they need to be a lawyer or solicitor and go through all the technical detailed law like this, because they're advertising Just Stop Oil actions. They're advertising Just Stop Oil actions. That's the problem. They're actually advertising, they're promoting Just Stop Oil. So, because they're promoting political actions, then it's asking to be recognised. In fact, they're asking for the political right to be recognised by the police. You know? Now, if one of them did have some kind of epileptic fit or seizure or something like that, and they couldn't voice it or word it, the thing is, they can't voice and word it even if they're not doing a political action. Even if they're not engaged in a political right or a political action, and their words and actions, like Monster Raving Loony Party activities and manifestos and, you know, dancing backwards or whatever it is, which could be regarded as, well, the police will probably say that it's not loony, they're not really loonies, they're pretending to be loonies, and it's more comedy. I think the police would probably claim that the Monster Raving Loony Party aren't lunatics, or that the Monster Raving Loony Party aren't crazy or insane, that it's just they're pretending to be, that it's just comedy. So therefore, you know, they're faking it. So, you know, I would probably say to, you know, the that Howling Lord Hope or whatever, that the police probably would claim that the Monster Raving Loony Party aren't lunatics, like they're not loonies, they're just like comedy, they're just pretending to be loonies. He would probably argue against that, and you know, he would probably vehemently say that they're not fakes or frauds and that they really are loonies. But the thing is, it doesn't matter, actually, if you had an epileptic fit or seizure, right, for example. And actually, I don't think epilepsy is classed as a mental disorder. Epilepsy is epilepsy, and when you're having an epileptic fit, you're having an epileptic fit, and it is what it is, and then they pass. It's all you're under a certain medical program anyway. So an epileptic fit, which if you're having one, you can't say that I'm having an epileptic fit, right? You can't differentiate that from claiming a political right or not, because you're not able to represent on it. But it doesn't matter anyway, because you can't differentiate from it whether you are or whether you aren't, right? And the thing with Just Stop Oil is that they are claiming political rights, So this is the thing. I severely doubt that he's not able to speak and represent himself. This Daniel guy. This Thomas Erskine May book, which actually does say that under parliamentary privileges, some of these MPs at the moment, look at Tony Blair. I've used Tony Blair in another example, right? Tony Blair, he's meant to be a trained lawyer. He's meant to go to Lincoln's Inn. He's meant to be, he's meant to be a legal professional. But, he's ignoring and denying the fact that he put a congestion charge in London when in Magna Carta you can't do that. And any judgment or order made by Parliament in contravention of Magna Carta is illegal. It's unlawful. And, he's ignoring it, doesn't want to talk about it, or he's in denial of it. That has to be a mental disorder. When the law says something explicitly, clearly, says that, London shall have all of the ancient rights and privileges, right? And when you read what those are, and some of them are free toll passage through London, that you can't be charged, they can't extract money from you to pass through London, right? Through the main part that was regarded as the Liberty of London, which is the main part by the bend in the river, right? When it says you can't do that, but people are doing it, then there's got to be mental health problems. Now, Tony Blair could say, I've got parliamentary privilege, right? But he can be challenged. He can be challenged in the Supreme Court or by Parliament. This is where you get impeachments, But this is the thing. Can Blair be accused of having a mental disorder? Some of these politicians who, they've got, it's meant to be regarded as an honour or it's meant to be regarded as admirable. They've got like a mind like steel. They've got this unbending will that, regardless of fact, truth, and law, they've got this unbending will where they'll do what the hell they want, regardless of fact, truth, and law. That's got to be a mental disorder, surely. And if the police can arrest this Daniel when he's exercising a political right for mental disorder, why can't Blair be arrested for having a mental disorder? Unbending will in the face, against fact and truth, right? Has to be a mental disorder. It has to be. Same with, most politicians, they just want, either they've got this Dutch courage. That's significant for Starmer, maybe Starmer's got Dutch courage, or they are retarded. They don't understand or know law properly. They're not educated, and maybe they're not fit to be elected to be MPs in Parliament. I think that they get too much confidence and they think they can do what the hell they want. And in a way, they're being reckless with the law and the nation in the same way that, some of these protesters are being. So, are they any better or worse than them? This is the thing. But if those pills actually were they don't even seem to be asking how they were obtained, if they were obtained by prescription or unlawfully purchased, or, why aren't they charging them for possession of medication unlawfully, unlawful charge of medication, unless he says that he's using them, to make you see, if you make some kind of advertisement out of them or stick them on a bit of paper or something like that, make a postcard out of them for Just Stop Oil, then, it's a protected material. I don't like the whole affair, really, you know. And how I was treated by the police and what I went through when I was protected and when actually the law was enforced and I actually claimed my rights as well. As far as I'm concerned, the police are actually putting people into mental disorders. The police are actually creating mental disorders and making them at the police station. Anyone who's been through, it is not a place of safety, that's for sure. A police station is not a place of safety. It's a place where mental disorders are seeded and where distress is got. It takes people a long time to get over it, you know. I think the police station's a place, it actually is a lunatic asylum. And, you know, I think the loonies are running it in most instances, even though we've got, you know, a lot of serious things like, you know, murders and things like that. But look at that Bristol incident, you know, cut and run. You know, so it's almost kind of like, you know, a guy with a suitcase has chopped his boss up, apparently, and he's found near the Clifton Suspension Bridge, right? Which is totally crazy. But I think he was running away from it. It's like, it's over the top of the river where, you know, Banks is named after. It's like cut and run. And it just happens to be around the time there's this Stonehenge tunnel case, which is to do with a tunnel under an ancient site, not a bridge over the top of somewhere, but a tunnel under a site. And then straight after this, now we've got this old Trump getting shot at in America. And apparently the gunman got shot so he couldn't be questioned. Why would the police shoot the only witness, you know, so they couldn't find out who put him up to it or who got him to do it or what even motivated him, even provoked him. You know, if there was any television or radio or magazines that, you know, might have provoked him or, you know, anything like that, that they're not getting any detailed information out of it because they shot the gunman, which is ridiculous, you know. They could have at least used tranquilizer dart or something like that. They're actually crazy in America. And you know, that incident's ridiculous because Trump's just trying to outdo Kennedy, you know, for his relative getting shot. Even though I think Kennedy's had at least 2 people try to get into his house armed. So, you know, they were trying to outdo each other now. I think Trump's trying to kind of like it's almost like a movie. It's kind of like one-upmanship. They're all trying to get more wacky, crazy events, you know, to shock Americans or whatever. But anyway, I'm going off subject from this now. So maybe because it is pills in the possession, but what were they doing there in the first place? And you know, why did they come to arrest him? You know, for political action? That's the thing.